Bonsoir à tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are very pleased to welcome you today for our webinar, and we were just fixing some details for the language. We have two languages. For those of you who would like to listen to the presentation in French, you have to click on the globe icon and choose the French language. And for those of you who would like to follow in English, you need to select the English channel.
Donc, je pense qu'on peut commencer.
I think we can start now. So this afternoon, we are gathered here to address a very current topic, which is very important: gender, water, and climate resilience in the Sahel, challenges and opportunities for gender integration in a context of multiple crises. So we will have three speakers today. They will address this very interesting topic for us. So today's program is as follows. We will have first an introduction, then we will listen to the keynote speaker today, Madame Zika. She's going to make her presentation. After, we will have Madame Diallo's presentation, and then Madame Doumbia's presentation. They are going to present various perspectives on the topic, and then we will have an exchange. We will give the floor to the public so that you can ask questions, and we're going to have a Q&A session before we finish.
Next slide. Donc, quelques règles pour
so here we have some rules for our participation. During the presentation, please do not hesitate to share your views and opinions in the chat. When you are not speaking, please close your mic. And we encourage you to have a very respectful and constructive exchange. We will not accept any kind of forms of discrimination and intolerance. So we urge you to have a very respectful dialogue among ourselves today. And if you have questions, you can write them in the chat, and please also write the name to whom you are addressing the question. This session is going to be recorded, and the recording will be made available. If you don't want to be recorded, please keep your camera off, and we will share this recording after the session. Next slide.
Donc, ça, c'est pour ceux qui veulent rejoindre.
On the screen, you have a QR code for those of you who would like to join the WASahelNet network, which is the organization organizing today's webinar. It's an organization in West Africa, so if you would like to join us, do not hesitate. We can also share with you the link if you would like to join our network. Thank you very much.
Next slide. Next slide. Donc, nous organisons ce webinaire avec
So we are organizing this webinar with the support of the various partnerships in our programs. and we have several resources at your disposal. And now we will give the floor to our first speaker.
Madame Zika, vous êtes là?
Are you there, Madame Zika?
D'accord. Donc, puisque Madame Zika ne répond pas encore, nous allons
since Madame Zika is unresponsive, let's go to our next presentation. Madame Diallo, are you there? We can start with your presentation.
Oui, je suis là.
Donc,
yes, here I am. Very well. So we can start with your presentation. Okay.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diallo Tata Touré. I am the Executive Director of the NGO ODI-Sahel, which means Organization for an Integrated Development in Sahel. We are based in the center of Mali in the Mopti region, and we intervene in this region. We've started 30 years ago, and we work mainly with resources such as agriculture, climate change, water resources, and climate change has been very impactful, has had a very heavy impact in our region. There are important inundations, but in the dry season, there are heavy droughts. So this is why it's important to develop annual plans regarding the water resources availability. So today, I am going to dwell upon climate resilience and many opportunities for intervention in our context. As I said, the Mopti region that you can see here on the map at the center of Mali, as you can see in the red circle. Our population has been heavily infected by insecurity and intra-communitarian conflicts. This population, as I said, continues to suffer from insecurity due to intra-community conflicts. But who are the most important victims? Victims of this insecurity of climate change are mostly women. They are highly vulnerable, and they are the ones who are most affected by climate change and by the security crisis.
Oui, avancer le slide. Oui, on peut avancer. Voilà. Ça, c'est une réunion des femmes bénéficiaires de nos activités.
Is a meeting with women who benefit from our activities in this region.
C'est une réunion des femmes
Please.
pour l'information, la
It's a
sensibilisation.
meeting for women to inform them of our
Je l'ai dit
action.
tout de suite, le contexte actuel de ma région est dominé par de grands
So
défis.
the actual context of my region is dominated by
Avec des
severe
conditions difficiles, des
security
conditions économiques
challenges
et surtout
with
qui
a
sont
very
aggravées par
difficult
l'extrémisme violent,
political,
la
economical, and
criminalité
social
organisée, le terrorisme
conditions.
et la prolifération des armes légères. Et tout cela
We
constitue
also
des
suffer from
menaces
violent
à la
extremism,
stabilité humaine.
organized crime,
Et
terrorism, and
c'est même
a
reconnu
slight
au niveau
weapon
monde entier,
traffic,
notre région a été
which
classée
are
même
the
comme zone rouge
main
depuis
threats
des années
for the
à cause de
stability
cette
and the
insécurité.
human
Et
security. So
vraiment, il s'est
it is
imposé dans
very
une
a
région
climate
tellement stable
of
dans le temps et tellement calme et tellement
insecurity which have
avec un développement
aggravated
économique sans
the
pareil au niveau du Mali
vulnerability
parce
and the
que c'est le grenier du
precariousness
Mali. Malheureusement,
for
nous
those
sommes victimes de cette crise qui
communities.
nous a été imposée.
So it is a crisis that has been imposed to us.
Donc, je l'ai dit plus tôt, les victimes sont toujours les femmes et les jeunes.
The victims
Parce
are
qu'avec la
mainly
crise, avec
women and
la
young people,
criminalité,
because
avec les
with
groupes
the
armés,
rise of
donc,
criminality,
il y a beaucoup de
the
bras valides qui ont
the
été,
challenges
qui ont
with
été obligés de fuir les campements,
armed
fuir leur
groups,
zone, fuir leur maison, fuir
people
leur
have to
village.
flee from
Et
their
malheureusement, les
homes,
femmes
their
sont
villages,
devenues
and
des chefs de ménage
the
et
victims
elles sont
are
en train
the
d'assumer
women
seules
are the
les
main
charges de la
victims
famille.
because they have
Et lors des
to
déplacements
handle by
massifs aussi,
themselves
nous voyons que c'est les
all
femmes,
the
les vieux
tasks
et
of
les
their
enfants
family. They are
qui
now
sont
the
dans
head
ces
of their
déplacements massifs
households, and they
pour venir
are
dans la commune urbaine
suffering
où il y a
from
plus d'insalubrité.
this massive moving
Donc,
of
voilà, c'est pourquoi
population.
nous intervenons avec les femmes
So
autochtones
that's
et aussi avec les
why
femmes
we work
déplacées parce
with
qu'elles en ont
these
vraiment besoin
indigenous
de tout ce qu'elles ont
people,
perdu
women, because they
et
have lost
continuent de
everything.
perdre pendant ces
They keep
conflits.
on losing everything
Et
during
je
this
l'ai dit aussi,
conflict.
c'est une
And I
zone
have also
assez
explained it.
conservatrice
This is
où
a
au départ,
very
vraiment,
pretty
les femmes n'avaient pas droit à la parole,
conservative
elles n'avaient pas droit aux décisions, elles n'avaient
area.
pas droit à la terre.
Before,
Mais
women didn't have the
aujourd'hui,
right
avec
to speak
la
up,
loi foncière
to decide. But
qui
now with the
attribue
new
ouais,
land
15% aux
law,
femmes et aux personnes
which
vulnérables,
gives
et
15% of the
puis
rights to
on tire
women and
chapeau à
vulnerable
notre gouvernement
people,
parce que tous les
things
nouveaux aménagements,
are
le
improving a
gouvernement
little bit.
vraiment favorise les
So this
femmes.
is thanks to
Tous les
our
nouveaux.
government,
Mais
and
si
I
c'est
really thank the government for that.
si c'est
I'm very
des
grateful.
attributions
So
coutumières, ça, la femme ne peut pas prétendre à des parcelles. Mais
it is
si
a
c'est
matter of
des
tradition.
attributions modernes,
Women
avec des
can't
aménagements
have
modernes, ça,
access
on peut
to
remercier Dieu parce que les femmes ont un
land
droit
ownership,
dans
but
ces
now things are
aménagements.
slowly
Et c'est pourquoi
moving
nous avons voulu
and changing,
travailler
and
beaucoup avec
that
ces
is why
femmes-là en
we are
matière
working with
d'agriculture
these
et en
women,
matière de
women
maraîchage
who
et même de
are working
reboisement.
in the agricultural field, because things can change thanks to this new way of working.
Voilà. Oui, avec la crise sécuritaire, les femmes
With
déplacées
the
internes
security crisis,
affrontent
the internally displaced women face
affrontent de graves
major
conditions de vie.
challenges
Ce n'est pas rare de voir ces
in
femmes
terms of
en déficit,
living conditions.
avec tellement de problèmes.
They've got
C'est
so
vrai que le
many
gouvernement a fait
problems.
de son mieux.
It is very
Les agences
hard
onusiennes
to
ont
move
fait de leur
forward.
mieux
It's
pour
true that the
apporter vraiment
government
leur aide
has
sous
done
toutes les
its
formes.
best to try
Les
to
aides
give
à
some
vivre, à
help
non-vivre,
with
à non occupants, et surtout
subsistence
sur le
allowance
fait de déplacer. Mais
and
malheureusement, un conflit
concrete help
qui
for those
tarde, un
displaced
conflit
population.
qui
But the
n'annonce pas de
conflict
fin. Un conflit
in this
qui
conflict,
fait des milliers
we
de
don't
déplacés
see
tous les jours.
any potential
Donc,
end,
quels que soient les
and it
appuis
is
alimentaires,
getting
vraiment,
worse actually
ça
every
reste
day.
toujours
So
insuffisant. Chacun
it
en
is
fait de son mieux.
it
Donc,
is
les femmes sont obligées
still
de
a
sortir
very
chaque matin et d'aller chercher
concerning
de quoi
situation.
faire
So
survivre la
every
famille.
day, the
C'est
women
pourquoi
have
on les
to
voit
wake up
au
in the
niveau des
morning
gares
and
routières, au
go
niveau
and
des
fetch
pharmacies,
water,
ainsi
go and look
partout,
for food,
aller vraiment à la
and
mendicité féminine.
and
C'est vraiment très grave. Donc, cette mendicité a un
and are
visage de femme
exposed to
aujourd'hui dans notre
extreme
localité.
poverty
Et ça, c'est ces femmes
situation.
déplacées, malheureusement. Imaginez-vous des femmes qui
Unfortunately,
vivaient dans leur
imagine
dignité,
those
dans leur
women who
dignité chez elles.
before
Mais à
were
cause de ce
living in
conflit, à
dignity
cause de ce
because of
déplacement,
this
elles sont
conflict and
venues des
of
mendiants,
this
elles ont tout
displacement.
perdu. Tout
They
ce
have
qu'on leur
lost
donne,
everything. So
on leur
they
donne, mais
only
c'est
have
très
what we are
insuffisant parce
giving
que
them.
tous les
So
jours,
it
c'est
is
des
a
déplacés
help,
qui
of
viennent.
course, but it's
Et
always,
puis
of course,
souvent aussi,
insufficient.
il y a un choix à faire parce
Also,
que
they have
les
to
donateurs,
make a choice
les généreux donateurs peuvent leur donner le céréal, mais
because
elles ont besoin de poissons, elles ont besoin de viande, elles ont besoin
sometimes
d'autres
they
choses pour améliorer
receive some
leur
basic
alimentation
elements to
aussi.
survive, but
Donc, c'est
they
pourquoi
need
nous
much more.
avons
They
jugé
need
nécessaire
um,
de les apprendre certains métiers
food and much more to have a decent living. So we are trying to teach them a profession so that they can earn some money to go in the way of a more decent life.
Allô, Tata, on n'entend plus. We cannot hear.
Je n'entends plus rien.
I can't hear anything.
C'est pas elle qui projette, ou bien c'est quelqu'un d'autre qui projette?
Is it
Non, c'est quelqu'un d'autre qui projette.
someone else
J'ai l'impression qu'il y a eu
who shared the presentation, right? So I've got the feeling that Mrs. Diallo had a problem with her connection. Yes, I think she lost her connection.
In a room. Tata?
Oui.
Yes, I'm here.
Madame Tata, vous êtes là?
Ah, no. Mrs. Tata Diallo, are you here? Are you still with us?
Je peux continuer?
Oui, oui, vas-y, vas-y.
Oui. Vous pouvez continuer.
Can I continue? Yes, of course.
J'ai dit que nous
So I was saying that we are
auprès de deux groupes de femmes, les femmes sédentaires,
intervening with two groups of women with
à la gestion de l'eau et tout ce qui concerne
especially regarding water management, because displaced women don't have any land. So at their level, it is a very useful activity. So for indigenous women in Niger, our action were made possible thanks to the government first, technical services from the government, and also all the agencies like international and also the management project, the project of integrated management of water resources in the internal delta in Niger, and the Fed through its program consisting in valorizing resources in water, rest and not also with UNPD.
Oui. Bon, quelques interventions que nous avons eu à faire dans
some examples of interventions in Delta. We have implemented 20 micro-perimeters irrigated of 6 hectares each to the benefit of women in the internal delta in Niger. And we have also constructed warehouses So each woman can manage her own perimeter. She manages expenses, savings, gains, what they are going to sell, what they are going to use for their families. So they are managing the whole activity by themselves. So this has worked very well. We have also other markets.
S'il vous plaît, veuillez fermer les micros.
Please mute your microphone.
Madame Diallo, vous pouvez poursuivre.
Ms. Diallo, you can continue with your presentation.
Oui, Tata, tu peux aller, on entend.
Tata, you can continue with your presentation. It is okay now.
Elle a été déconnectée encore.
I think she has lost her connection again, unfortunately.
Excuse-moi, on a des sérieux problèmes de connexion ici.
Sorry, we have serious connection issues. I'm really sorry.
I don't hear anything. And I see that...
OK.
Yes.
Le suivant, /suivant.
Next slide.
Oui, on peut souligner aussi, dans
We
le
can
cadre
also mention,
des changements climatiques, la participation des femmes aux grands
in
travaux
terms
de
of
reboisement
climatic
de
change,
l'acacia kirki, de l'acacia nilotica,
women
la
have
lutte contre
participated to
l'ensablement avec la plantation de l'effort. Comme je l'ai
large
souligné
work with
auparavant,
Acacia
c'est une
kirki
zone
and
vraiment
Acacia nilotica in
une
this
de fortes
area,
ressources en eau. C'est vrai,
with
en période de
strong
pluie.
resources
Mais
in
le
water.
contraste est que en
But the
période
contrast is
en période
that
sèche, tu peux
in
traverser même
during the
le grand lac à pied à cause
period,
et la sécheresse. Donc c'est pourquoi nous avons
you
voulu
can
impliquer les
cross
femmes
this
dans le
area
reboisement et la lutte
walking. So we
contre
wanted to work with
l'ensablement.
these women
J'ai souligné
to
par ailleurs aussi que la récolte des femmes
to reconstruct this area and to
vendue, il y a
prepare
une
it
bonne partie
for a
qui est
better
vendue pour entretenir la famille
for
et une
better
autre
working.
partie est autoconsommée et
So
supérieure
another
aux
part
besoins de la famille. Ces actions ont beaucoup amélioré dans la zone la sécurité alimentaire de la famille,
dedicated to
l'autonomisation de la femme,
subsistence of
des
the
bénéficiaires et
women,
surtout
of the
améliorer
families,
leur
and
statut.
especially we wanted to improve the status of these
L'amélioration est
women.
vraiment visible.
the improvement is really visible because you can see on the photos they get some money, they can sell some products, so they are very empowered today. They have improved their living conditions.
Elles ont plus de considération aujourd'hui. Au niveau de leur ménage, elles ont plus de considération parce que
Their households
elles gèrent vraiment le repas.
now
Elles gèrent beaucoup de
they
dépenses de
are
Donc, elles
in
ont plus de
charge
considération au niveau
of
des
many
villages,
households,
par
and
exemple,
also
sont
in the
vraiment actives.
villages.
Donc, même les chefs
These
de
women
village, quand
are
ils font des
truly
rencontres, ils font des réunions,
active.
ils disent, on va
They are
appeler les femmes de
setting up
telle association
meetings, they are
qui va les conseiller
organizing projects,
pour telle et
and
telle décision.
they are also encouraging other
Ça
women so that they
influe
can also
positivement
get
le statut de
involved.
la femme.
And this has had a positive impact on women's status.
Oui. Mhm.
Yes.
Donc, ce projet a pris fin il y a 4 ans. Il y a 4 ans
So
que ce
this
projet
project has
d'appui,
started
le financement est terminé.
4 years,
Mais vraiment, c'est
was
avec
over
joie.
4 years ago.
C'est avec
But
joie. C'est avec joie que je constate que
we
ces femmes continuent toujours à faire
can
le
say
travail
that these women
et
continue
vraiment,
working
à continuer à,
and
elles continuent les parcelles, elles continuent à
they
vendre,
are
elles continuent à
continue
récolter.
working
Vraiment,
in
ça c'est
agriculture.
très
They
chapeau à
are
ces
selling
femmes-là.
their products,
Et il y a
and
même eu déjà, il y a même d'autres femmes aussi qui ont fait la
there are
duplication
even
de
other
ces activités.
women who have also replicated these activities.
Voilà. Mhm. Voilà, ça c'est
So here you have
la récolte de l'oignon.
a photograph
Le petit oignon qu'on
of
appelle chez nous l'échalote.
our onions
Et ça
crops.
c'est beaucoup prisé
And
au niveau des ménages, au
this is
niveau
a
des
pretty
marchés.
much appreciated activity
Mhm.
in the markets and in households as well.
Mhm. Voilà. Et ça, c'est les femmes
And
qui sont venues. Elles sont venues pour
here you
préparer
can see women who
la saison
came
prochaine, quoi. Préparer la terre.
to
Elles
get
sont avec
ready
leur dado,
for
elles sont avec
next
leur seau.
season. They
Il y
are
a les
here
enfants qui les
working
aident. Et ça, c'est le
with
château
the
dont j'ai
other
parlé, le
women who are
château
helping.
d'eau qui
And
alimente les
here
jardins avec
you
la
can
glace solaire.
see the
Voilà.
water tank that is used
Mhm.
for
Vous les voyez
irrigation
toutes
of the
heureuses.
land. So you can see them how they're happy on the photo.
Voilà. Bon, ça, c'est la deuxième intervention. Et
And
comme
this
je
is
l'ai
the
dit, on
second
voit les femmes
intervention,
déplacées.
as I said, with respect to displaced women.
Ça, c'est au niveau de 11 sites.
And
Il y a 11
we've
sites qu'on
been
a pris
working
en
in
compte.
11 sites in the Mopti region.
Comme je disais que les sites-là sont toujours peuplés,
And as
sont
I
surtout
said,
peuplés par les femmes, les enfants
these
et les vieillards.
sites, there are
Donc,
only
sur
women,
instruction du
children,
partenaire,
and the
on essaie
elderly
d'abord
living there. So
identifier leurs besoins. C'est les femmes même pour
we
identifier leurs
first
besoins, ce qu'elles peuvent faire.
identified
Et c'est là
their needs, what they
qu'elles
could
ont
do.
identifié 6 métiers. L'embouche, le
So
artisanat, le petit
they
commerce, la
pinpointed
soporification, la transformation
trade, small
agroalimentaire, la
trade,
coiffure, la couture. Bon, après
agri-food
4 à 8
transformation,
semaines de formation
sewing,
par,
and after some weeks
par
of
activité
training,
et par besoin, elles ont
we have
été prises en
activities
charge.
that have been classified
Elles ont
per,
été dotées en
by
matériel de
needs.
travail d'abord et puis en fonds
So
d'amorçage pour leur permettre
we
de
have
vraiment être
given them
autonomes
some
en attendant
tools
leur retour
and then a
dans
seed
leur
capital so that
localité d'origine.
they could become
Mais comme
autonomous
aujourd'hui, vu
in
la
their
dégradation de la situation,
localities.
et je vous assure que
But
tous les jours,
the situation
cette
now
difficulté
has
du domaine,
worsened.
même
And
à
I
l'instant où
can
je parle, il y
assure
a des gens qui
you
sont en train de venir, des
that
déplacés qui viennent.
right now, as we
Donc, on ne sait
speak,
pas
people
le
continue
retour là,
to
c'est
be
pour quand.
displaced and
C'est
people
pour quand
continue
c'est-il
to die. So we're
pour
not
voir
doing
comment les rendre autonomes.
enough. So
Et puis même
everything
les
that we can
partenaires
do
techniques et
to make
financiers,
them more
tout
autonomous,
ça va s'arrêter
talking
un jour,
to financial
qu'elles aient vraiment
partners is going to help. And we hope that this is
l'occasion,
going
le
to
fonds
stop one
nécessaire
day. And
pour
so that they
subvenir à
can
leurs petits
have
besoins
one
pour les
day
aller
the
dans la rue pour voir
necessary
ce que nous demandent
funds
aujourd'hui.
to stop living in the streets and to have a livelihood. So this is another picture. You can see here some tools that they use for food treatment. So this is one of the sites.
Voilà. Voilà. Donc ça, c'est après la formation.
So this is regarding training. We have been supported by state services. And this is due to our efforts, everything that we've been doing in terms of intervention. We are asking for our technical team to support us on the following up on the implementation. And this is thanks to the capacity building measures that we have put in place during our trainings. As I said before, this project was very well received by the beneficiaries, especially since in the current context marked by scarce funding and uncertain return conditions, prospects remain limited. So we do everything in our power to improve their livelihoods, their life conditions. And here you can see one of the initiatives. This is a management committee and a group that works in irrigation of micro perimeters. So, and they are holding regular meetings to discuss various topics. So this slide speaks to the women that constitute a pillar of agriculture and contribute significantly to food security, particularly through the production of cereals such as rice, millet, corn, sorghum, and market garden crops. They do a little bit of everything in order to improve their livelihoods.
Voilà.
So, this was my presentation. We would like to thank Madame Diallo for her presentation, and we are going to give the floor to Madame Zika. Madame Zika, are you there?
Oui, je suis là.
Yes, here I am.
Je vous laisse la parole.
Over to you. If you would kindly start your presentation, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here in this webinar with us. My name is Zika Halimatou. I am a gender and climate resilience specialist. I have a master in climate change and sustainability. I am working in resilience programs on gender and inclusion. I am very pleased to be here with you today at this panel. I'm also an advocate for women and girls' rights. So I am going to share my screen, or are you going to share it? You can share it. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yes. Yes, we can see your screen.
D'accord, super. D'accord. Alors, comme plan de cette
so this is the agenda. As you already know, we are going to address the topic of gender, water and climate resilience In the Sahel,
l'interconnexion
in order to do
entre
so,
l'eau,
we need to
l'environnement et le
understand the
climat.
connection between
On parlera
gender, water,
également
and
du
environment.
potentiel des femmes
We're also
par
going
rapport à la gestion
to
de ces ressources
address women's potential
et de la
in the
résilience
management of these resources
et
and
nous parlerons
resilience.
de
We'll
l'importance
also
de la
talk
prise en compte
about the
du genre dans les
importance of
projets
taking
et
into
puis
account
comment est-ce qu'on
gender
fait
in
une bonne
projects.
intégration du
How
genre.
is it
On va
possible
parler
to conduct
du genre
a
dans le WASH
an
et de la
appropriate
recherche.
integration? We're also going to talk about
Alors,
gender in WASH,
le
gender
Sahel,
in
comme le
research,
disait Tata dans sa
and
présentation,
the Sahel
et
region,
le
as it
Sahel subit une
was said
crise,
during the previous
une
presentation,
crise
is
marquée
an
notamment par le changement
unprecedented
climatique avec les risques climatiques
multi-crisis marked
et
by the effects of
aussi
climate
l'insécurité et
change
l'extrémisme violent.
and also
Les crises climatiques entraînent la
insecurity
raréfaction
and
des ressources
violent
naturelles,
extremism.
l'insécurité alimentaire
These crises
et
are leading, among other
l'insécurité
things, to
exponentielle
depletion of
violente qui
natural
force les
resources,
populations
food
à se
insecurity,
déplacer
and forced
et à
displacement of
être refugiées.
populations.
C'est vrai que le climat aussi peut faire
And
des réfugiés
it is true that
climatiques et
climate change
ça aussi,
can
ça existe dans notre
um,
communauté. Mais quand on prend les
produce
femmes, elles vivent
refugees,
déjà
climate
dans
refugees.
un
But
environnement
women
pas
who are
bien,
living
où les normes
already
socioculturelles leur sont
in a
défavorables.
patriarchal system
À
where
cela
norms
s'ajoute donc
are unfavorable to
tous
them,
les impacts de ces crises
women see
multiples
their
du Sahel.
vulnerability
Donc, elles voient leur
exacerbated
vulnérabilité
by the
exacerbée
combination of these
avec tout ce
crises
qui est crise et les inégalités et
and
structurelles.
also due to
Comment est-ce
structural
qu'on définit le
inequalities.
genre? Le genre,
So,
c'est vraiment une
how
construction
can
sociale.
we
C'est
understand
la façon
gender?
dont la
Well, gender is a
société
social construct.
éduque
It refers
ou
to the
influence
way in which
les hommes,
society
les femmes à
educates
être
or has an
responsables
influence on women
de
and
telle ou telle
men to
chose,
be
les attentes
responsible
qu'on attend
of some
vis-à-vis de
tasks
la
and
femme
all the
des
expectations
jeunes filles ou des jeunes
vis-à-vis
garçons,
women, men, and young people,
et les relations de pouvoir entre les femmes,
and
les hommes, les
also
jeunes filles
the
et les
power
jeunes garçons.
relations between women, girls, and
Ces
boys.
considérations, ces dynamiques du genre
So
font en sorte
these
que
are very dynamic considerations, of course,
les ressources dont
but
disposent les communautés
the resources
sont en
made available to
possession de tel ou
communities
tel genre, hommes ou femmes, qu'ils exercent
are in the
le
hand
contrôle
of
soit
some
plus favorable pour l'un
actors.
et pour l'autre. Dans nos
And
sociétés au Sahel,
this
c'est plus
being
les hommes
so,
qui sont en possession de la majorité
men
des ressources, qui ont
are
plus l'accès, les
holding
femmes peuvent avoir
the
accès aussi,
majority of
mais le
resources,
contrôle
so
et
the system is favorable to
le
them.
pouvoir, c'est plus pour
They
les
have
hommes.
a
Même quand on
larger
fait des récoltes,
control
qui
for
a
men,
l'aptitude de
and
pouvoir utiliser, si on vend tout ou on vend
they
la moitié,
use
ce sont
that
les hommes.
power.
Et le pouvoir de décision
They are the
va
ones who
aussi avec
sell,
les
they are the
décisions
ones who make
familiales. Est-ce qu'il faut marier,
decisions.
par exemple,
And this
la jeune fille? Est-ce
also
qu'à l'école, qu'est-ce que la famille
has an
doit
impact
avoir
on
comme objectif à
households.
court terme, à
They
long
make
terme,
decisions
etc.
for women, for
Donc, ce
children,
pouvoir-là est
uh,
détenu en majorité
around
par les hommes.
livelihoods. So,
C'est vrai,
as we
j'avoue,
can
et le
see,
rôle
these power
varie également
structures
en fonction
favor
de la
men.
période. C'est vraiment évolutif.
And
Donc, c'est
the
la culture, la
role
religion, les
also
classes sociales,
varies
les groupes,
according to
entre
the
autres, qui
culture.
définissent le genre.
So those
Là,
in power,
parlons
or
un
elites, are
peu
the
de la
ones who are
vulnérabilité
defining this role
différenciée
assignment.
dans l'accès et l'utilisation des
We can see
ressources
very
ou
differentiated vulnerabilities
environnement,
in access
les
to
ressources
the use
naturelles de
of
façon générale,
resources and in the
et face
face
aux
of
risques climatiques
climate
aussi
risks.
et les autres risques et
There
crises
are
sahéliens entre
many
les hommes et la
risks
femme. Donc,
in the
les femmes
Sahel
ont une difficulté
region.
d'accès à l'eau. C'est de façon
Women
générale,
have
le Sahel est
uh,
confronté à la difficulté
little
d'accès à l'eau
access to water, for
à cause
instance. They
du fait qu'il
have
y a
problems in accessing
peu
water
d'infrastructures
due to infrastructure limitations.
I think we lost Madam Zika.
Maybe Miss Doumbia can continue, right?
Charlène?
Oui.
On l'attend
Yes.
2 minutes pour voir ou
Can we wait for 2 minutes or shall we start
quelques minutes?
right now?
Oui, 1 ou 2 minutes tout au plus.
Yes, let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes maximum
Parce que le temps court.
because
On va pas
time
trop
is
attendre.
passing.
Maybe there are already some questions for Madame Tata. But I leave that to you, Charlene, to see. Maybe that's a good moment to probably wait.
C'est Halimatou. Hello, c'est Halimatou. J'ai vraiment un problème de connexion. Je suis sur un autre téléphone.
Hello, I'm
je sais pas
Halimatou.
si
I've got a
Charlène, tu
connection
peux
problem.
partager
Charlene, can you
et
share?
reprendre
Oui,
la...
je pense que Nadine a toutes les présentations. Elle peut
Yeah,
partager.
Nadine has all the presentation.
I will
She
share.
will be able to share the
Yes, please share.
presentation. Yeah, I will be able to continue the presentation if I have the slides.
Diapo.
Next slide.
Voilà. On retourne en arrière.
The last one, just before.
OK. OK, voilà. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, so thank you very much.
On va parler des tâches ménagères et la corvée qui est vraiment attribuée à la femme.
We are going to talk about
Le
the
changement climatique qui accentue
cause
aussi la
for
vulnérabilité
the
des
women and the climate change,
parce que les ressources elles sont fortement impliquées dans la
which
production.
puts significant pressure on women
De la main-d'œuvre
because
dans la production et 80% de la
there is a decline in natural
transformation.
resources and
Et
there is
quand
a
il y a
particular
catastrophe
impact on the
climatique, elles peuvent être
agricultural
exposées
sector.
14 fois,
Women
elles et
account
les enfants, plus
for
que les
nearly
hommes.
40% of production and
Elles ont
80%
aussi
of
comme défi
processing,
comme
making
vulnérabilité
them
l'accès restreint à la
very
terre.
vulnerable to
Et
the
comme le disait
effects of
Tata
climate
tout à
change.
l'heure, les femmes, en fait, au Sahel, c'est elles qui ont, quand on parle de pauvreté, on va directement à la
In
femme.
the
La
event
pauvreté
of
a
a
une tâche féminine, nous avons l'habitude de
climate-related
dire,
disaster,
c'est qu'il y ait
women and
la mise en
children
place
are
de pratiques agricoles durables, la diversification des cultures
14 times more
et
likely to die
les
than men.
alternatives économiques,
And
ce qui réduit encore leur résilience face au choc climatique. On peut aussi parler donc de la montée de l'insécurité,
there
de
is
différents
also
au Sahel qui provoquent l'abandon
a
scolaire,
rise in
les mariages
insecurity
précoces,
and
les déplacements forcés.
a rise of
Et
terrorism in
on
Sahel,
a parlé
which
de
provokes
transgression de genre sur le
dropout,
diapo.
early
Les femmes
marriage, and
sont
forced
victimes
displacement, and a
de
rise in
racialisation de genre
violences,
sur les sites
gender-based
et
violences.
déplacés. Et en
Also,
tout cas,
women
dans
have
tout ce
restricted
qui est
access to
déplacement,
land.
au-delà déjà du
So this
contexte
can increase the
culturel, il y a des
poverty
crises qui
of
accentuent
women.
donc leur vulnérabilité et leur exposition à tout ce qui est violence sexuelle ou sexiste. Diapo.
And concerning insecurity, women are also very exposed to sexual violence.
Diapo.
Next slide.
Qui gère le diapo?
Who is in charge of the slides?
I
Okay,
am. I
merci.
think I moved to the next slide, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Yes, I can see. Donc, on parlait de leur vulnérabilité, mais
So
elles
we
sont
were talking
aussi
about their vulnerability, but they're also
des
very
piliers de la résistance.
resilient. They are resilient pillars. They've got a great potential. Women are the main users of natural resources, water, wood, soil, and all the local knowledge, which is essential for their sustainable management. They are often sedentary, while suffer from insecurity when they are displaced. And some of them also have to displace, to move to get natural resources, but they are usually sedentary, so they ensure daily management and community decision-making on resources, because the men are the ones who go on exodus. And faced with the effects of climate change and insecurity, they are developing adaptation initiatives such as market gardening, processing, or small businesses to meet family needs. Women are also mediators in resource-related conflicts. They can help maintain peace and social cohesion.
À la paix et la cohésion sociale. Donc, l'implication des femmes dans les projets environnementaux.
The involvement of women in environmental and climate projects strengthens their ability, local ownership, and long-term impact.
Donc, diapo. OK. Donc, pourquoi est-ce qu'on doit intégrer le genre dans les projets?
So, why do we have to integrate gender in our projects? Well, first, because gender mainstreaming helps meet the specific needs of women and men for a more equitable distribution of resources.
Parce que l'intégration du genre garantit une participation
Because
et un accès réel des femmes à la terre, à l'eau, aux revenus,
gender mainstreaming really guarantees an equal access of women to the land, to the water, and to incomes.
Qui peuvent permettre de construire les normes
This allows to deconstruct the stereotypical norms on gender, which limits the power, the women's power to act. So this is how we can advance and construct new perceptions on relationships between women and men, the differences of opportunities to women. So gender mainstreaming in projects allow to avoid a biased look at the situation and to get credible data. So it reinforces the efficacy of project, but also the sustainability.
Next slide. OK. Comment est-ce qu'on peut faire une intégration du genre dans les projets?
How can we integrate gender in our project? So it goes from identification till the monitoring and evaluation step. to analyze gender. Project has to analyze first the context, identify the specific needs, constraints, and priorities of different social categories: women, men, girls, boys, people with disabilities. So it is through this analysis that we get to know what are the conditions, what are the realities, dynamics, and what are the needs. Then we design the project. The project has to have a gender-sensitive logical framework. So this project defines the objectives and they allows they are thus able to address needs, including those that address harmful perceptions, and they can also take into account specific activities dedicated to women, so they give an answer to the real needs of the population. They also define very clear objectives in terms of recruitment of, for example, women in the project. So there are quotas of women beneficiaries and financial resources dedicated to supporting women and vulnerable groups. So it allows also to define activities that enable equitable access to resources and build gender equality and deconstruct perception of gender norms. So we have talked about garden markets, etc. So it is for this kind of activities.
Vous avez cliqué 2 diapos, ok. Donc, l'autre diapo parlait, vous avez sauté le diapo de la
you have switched one slide, I guess, because I wanted to talk about the implementation.
Il faut recruter un expert en genre qui doit superviser
the implementation. We have to appoint a gender supervisor within the project team to train teams and verify effective gender integration. It ensures that the project does not create inequalities or expose participants to gender-based violence. It is very important for a participant to understand all the dynamics. So every participant has to be able to protect, to really understand the issue and protect people. So it is really a qualitative work with the participants. So it is first a matter of analysis and planification. We can do a gender-specific analysis and collect disaggregated data.
Il faut voir la question de la sécurité. Est-ce que c'est des emplacements proches du village où elles ont accès sans problème? Est-ce que c'est éclairé?
We can analyze if the project is close to the village so that women can access easily and safely. We can discuss with the community about all these issues which are key for most of them. And there is also an aspect of awareness raising and training. We train the women to leadership, to technical management. If they are not sufficiently trained, they are not able to do a good management of a project.
So we also need to have a dialogue and the sharing of tasks and to involving men
sur les pratiques d'hygiène familiale à travers peut-être des
and
messages de changement
family
de comportement.
hygiene practices
Donc, en fin d'année,
through
la
SBC
recherche,
communication tools.
diapo.
Next slide, please.
Can we go to the next? Donc, de la recherche,
So regarding gender in
voilà, de
research,
la recherche, il est primordial de comprendre le contexte.
it is
Comprendre les
fundamental
dynamiques sociales et les rapports
to
de pouvoir
understand the
existants pour bien
context and
concevoir
power
la recherche
relations
légitime, le
analysis.
questionnaire
We
et
need to
les
examine
approches.
social norms, roles,
Il faut
responsibilities,
avoir des
access and
méthodes de
control
collecte
of
et d'analyse
resources to
adaptées.
understand
Troisième méthode
gender
qualitative et
dynamics.
qualitative
This
pour les
analysis
agrégents,
guides
contextes et
the
agents pour
choice
identifier
of
les inégalités.
tools,
Il
questions, and
faut
participatory
surtout
approaches.
diversifier les
We
parties
need
de
to
données,
also have
tant les données de fait que
disaggregated
les expériences
data.
vécues.
We need
Avoir
by
des approches
perspectives
participatives et
and
éthiques,
also participatory
avoir
and
des
ethical
outils
approaches.
adaptés. Il faut faire des focus group,
Use
des hommes, hommes et
context
femmes.
appropriate
Il faut avoir
tools.
que les femmes de côté,
Select the
les hommes de côté
appropriate
pour faire
interviewer
des
profile.
interviews in-depth
Obtain local
interviews. Il faut aller vers
necessary
etc. Il faut sélectionner les enquêteurs appropriés. Donc,
and
est-ce que si
we
ce sont les
need
femmes les enquêtrices, elles
to
vont comprendre et
understand
les hommes peuvent répondre
if
ou sont les femmes peuvent
or when
répondre.
you
Est-ce qu'on
have
peut mélanger?
women who
Il
are
faudrait comprendre
interviewing,
tout ça pour
because
pouvoir
they
vraiment
will
s'adapter et pouvoir capter les bonnes réponses, mettre à l'aise les questionner. Obtenir les
so you
autorisations
have to
nécessaires pour
select
comprendre le contexte, pour savoir
appropriate
est-ce qu'on peut
interviewers.
parler aux femmes,
And we
questionner
also
les
need
femmes
to
sans
understand the
l'autorisation de
context,
leur mari ou du chef du
because
village.
in
Est-ce
some
que les femmes
contexts,
peuvent
women
rentrer dans un
cannot talk
champ
without the
si c'est un
authorization of
champ
their
d'hommes?
husbands.
Ils peuvent voir, il faut comprendre vraiment
So we
la
need to
culture. Il faut respecter
fully
les principes
understand
de
culture.
la confidentialité
And
et
also we need
et
to
respect. C'est
respect
très,
the
très
principle
important.
of do not
Donc, il faut
harm
également dans la
and
recherche et
respect
dans la
security and
planification des ressources,
confidentiality.
inclure les questions
Also,
déjà
resource
l'équipe,
planning.
par exemple,
You need to take into
des
account
chercheurs. On doit avoir peut-être
in
des
the
chercheuses, des
research
chercheurs.
team, you need
Donc,
to
il faut
have
qu'ils doivent
women
être
in that
formés.
team,
Donc, un budget
women
vraiment
who should
dédié,
be
sensible
trained.
aux questions de genre qui permettront donc d'approfondir la compréhension de ces
So
Donc,
they would have a
en
proper
conclusion,
approach.
next slide. Intégrer
Next
les autres
slide.
nécessités stratégiques qui rendra les
So
programmes plus efficaces,
we also
plus
need to
équitables,
integrate gender.
plus durables,
I understand that
contribuer
gender
à la
is a
cohésion
strategic
sociale et à la résilience,
necessity for making
défendre sur les
programs more
actifs clés,
effective, sustainable, and
sur les ressources
equitable,
naturelles,
contributing
et
to
donc
social cohesion
l'adaptation
and community
et
resilience.
l'intégration au changement climatique.
Women are
En
key actors in
investissant
natural
dans les
resource
arts
management
et
and therefore in climate change
des matériels
adaptation and
équitables,
mitigation.
durables et pacifiques. Merci.
And also investing in gender means investing in a fair, sustainable, and peaceful Sahel. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci, Madame Zika.
Thank you very much, Madame Zika, for your presentation.
Donc, nous allons rapidement
Now,
donner la
very quickly, we're going to give the
à Madame
floor
Doumbia,
to Mrs. Awa
la dernière
Doumbia
avant de passer aux
from
questions.
Mali before we go to the Q&A section.
Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone.
S'il vous plaît, vous pourrez vous présenter juste en 1-2 minutes.
Could you
avant
please
de
introduce
passer à la
yourself in just
présentation.
1 minute before you start your presentation?
Effectivement, merci bien.
Of course. Thank you
Alors,
very
moi, je
much.
suis Dr. Awa
My name
Doumbia.
is Awa
Je suis
Doumbia.
enseignante-chercheur en
I am a
textile et
senior
matériaux
researcher
et
in
actuellement directrice
textile
générale du
materials.
Centre
I
de
am
recherche
currently
et de
the general
formation pour les
management
industries légères et
of
textiles,
training and
CERFITEX,
research
qui est basé au Mali.
Center for the Textile and Industry
Et cet
CERFITEX
après-midi, je
based in
suis
Mali.
très
And this
ravie
afternoon, I am
de vous présenter le
really
projet BECATMA,
very happy to present to
qui
you the
soutient les femmes artisans
BECATMA
en teinture
project, which supports
dans le Sahel et qui visent à préserver leur savoir-faire.
Artisanal women in the Sahel, and which supports also this practice, which is unique. As you know, in the Sahel, women are working in ancestral techniques which have been acknowledged worldwide, and they are facing important security, environmental, economic challenges. These traditions can be threatened by this crisis. Now, the question is, how can we best support them so that these knowledge can be preserved? The BECATMA project is an answer to that question, and you're going to see these in detail later. But this project is combining skill, strengthening the improvement of products quality, preservation of environment, a cultural exchange, and most importantly, empowerment of women, making them financially independent. And so with all these, we hope that these artisanal women will continue to prosper in the midst of a very complicated crisis. So let's delve into the details of the project.
Donc, nous souhaitons proposer des solutions pour résoudre
Now,
les défis
we would like
environnementaux,
to
techniques et
propose
économiques
solutions
rencontrés
to address environmental, economic, and technical challenges
au Mali et en Niger,
by dyers in Mali
de
and
pérenniser leur
Niger in order to make their
C'est un
activity
secteur qui est
sustainable.
largement dominé par
This
les
is a
femmes.
sector that has been dominated by
s'agira de
women.
favoriser leur
So
autonomisation,
we want to
l'autonomisation des femmes et des
favor
jeunes,
their
de
empowerment
favoriser
of
l'adoption de
women
pratiques
and
durables
young women,
dans le
to
cadre de
also
leur
favor
activité,
the sustainability of this
d'encourager la
practice,
collaboration entre les acteurs et les
encourage
institutions,
cooperation between
et surtout faciliter
stakeholders and
l'innovation et le
organizations,
renforcement de
and also to
compétences.
facilitate the skill development
Alors, pourquoi
and
s'attacher
strengthening.
activement à
So why
prioriser les activités de
do
secteur
we need to
primaire?
work
Quand on prend le cas du Mali,
to make sustainable this activity? When we take the
on
Malian
voit que c'est un
case,
savoir-faire qui est
we
ancestral à
can see
développer, à
that this
préserver.
is a knowledge, an ancestral knowledge
On voit les
that
tissus
needs
un
to
peu
be
partout
protected,
au quotidien
and
et
we
lors de
can
cérémonies. Vous avez
see
des images.
here in the image many
Et
of the
nous avons
products
une réputation
that
en
the
tant que du
artisanal
bassin de
dyers do
dans la
make.
sous-région
We
et
have been
dans
recognized in this
et au-delà.
sub-region and elsewhere as well.
L'artisanat, quand on regarde les chiffres de l'artisanat,
When
on voit
we
que au moins
look at
25%
some of the
du
figures
PIB
of
vient de l'artisanat.
this
Quand on regarde le
activity,
nombre de
we
personnes
see
qui travaillent
that
en artisanat, au
almost
moins 15% travaillent dans ce
24.2%
secteur-là
of
qui est le textile,
GDP
habillement,
comes
cuir et
from
peau.
crafts. And we can see
Encore une fois,
also
c'est
that
pratiqué principalement par des femmes.
725,000 people have crafts
Regardons
as
de
their
plus
main
près le cas de
activity.
l'Algérie.
50% of crafts people work with textile, clothing, leather, and
Alors, les
hide
tanneries,
sector.
le cuir
Let's look
algérien
at
est reconnu
the
mondialement.
leather
Il y a une quantité
industry.
importante
Leather
de cuir qui
from
est fabriquée
Mali
chaque
is
année.
being recognized worldwide, and there is
Et en
important
2022,
production of
l'augmentation de la
leather
puissance des
in the case of
exportations
Algeria.
avoisinait les
In
40%.
2002, production was about
Quand on regarde les chiffres de l'artisanat,
46%,
on voit
amounting to
près de 2,7
$7.39 million
milliards
in
de contributions au PIB en
2022.
2023. Et l'artisanat emploie
And
plus d'1 million de personnes.
crafts, or the craft sector,
Encore une fois, il y
gives
a toujours une très forte
jobs to
participation
more
des
than
femmes.
1.18 million people. So we also see that
L'autre
this is an
question qui
industry
était de
mainly
pourquoi travailler pour et avec les femmes
driven by
dans ces
women.
contextes
So
fragiles et difficiles?
why is it important of
Je pense
working
qu'on peut
for
pas
and with
démarrer
women
sans
in
vraiment
this fragile
montrer
and vulnerable
l'importance stratégique et
context?
morale.
First, we need to show the strategic
En
and
effet,
moral importance
une
of this
société a
topic.
besoin
A
vraiment de tout le monde, de
society
la participation de
needs
tout le monde.
everyone to thrive.
Et les femmes
And women are half of this population. And this is important in terms of equity and human rights, and also for a better performance. I would like to go to the football example. If everything depends on men, it's going to be more difficult for everyone. So it's as simple as giving place to the participation of everyone to facilitate tasks. Regarding the vulnerability of the context, I will not give you many more details because Madame Zika has already mentioned this. And she said that we needed to invest more in resilience and peace and in the future. And women are the pillar who is most silenced throughout the agriculture and other activities that they produce, where they participate. And 90% of these activities and the income produced by these activities go directly into their families, which has a multiplier effect on community development. When we talk about this BECATMA program, we need to know that we're working with 5 partners from 3 countries, Mali. We have various structures, DONIATEC, BECATA, and IHE, which is one of our sponsors. They are sponsoring this project throughout the water and development partnership in their 3rd stage. So why Mali and Algeria? Well, we have seen throughout the culture exchanges that there has been a historical relationship between both of us. We have been working in 4 main axes of work, and we have strengthened institutional relations. We realized that we needed to update the databases of dyers, because in order to propose solutions, we needed to identify the population. And this is what is going on in Mali and Nigeria. Training. We need to work on water optimization. We know that dyers' activities require a lot of water.
Consumption of water for development preservation.
We also are training
students which are specifically working on these issues and helping us. And we also have research and advocacy activities to raise awareness of the impact on health. We have to foster wearing personal protective equipment, for example. And of course, economic and cultural exchanges have to be fostered to promote trade and knowledge exchange between artisans from different countries, etc. I made a small resume of the different challenges. First, the challenges. There is a resistance to change among some craftsmen. There is also resistance to the adoption of new working methods and little consideration of environmental issues. We made some strategies to
et la
for
sensibilisation
tackling
le
these
côté
challenges.
sanitaire.
So intellectual property
Nous avons
training,
remarqué
awareness and
également
training,
qu'il y
better
avait beaucoup de
management of
concurrence et de
effluents
pression
and waste. And there is also
d'autres
strong
produits
pressure
parce que certains produits, c'est la
on
reproduction de
some
ces produits
products
artisanaux, donc ce qui peut mettre en mal cette activité.
because
Il y a
craftsmen have
également des
strong
stratégies en
competition
place
from
pour
imported
améliorer leur
products
compétitivité.
because they are a reproduction of craft products.
Nous avons vu également que des
So there
lacunes
is
de
a competition
formation
and
et de
market pressure.
technologie pouvaient entraîner la
We
diminution
also
peut-être
have
ou
observed
une
that
atteinte à la qualité de ces
technological and
produits
training
artisanaux.
shortage can lead
Donc,
to
il y a
difficulties in
des
reproducing
perspectives qu'on a
shades.
vraiment aussi identifiées
So we have
pour
identified
pouvoir
also
pallier
perspectives
à
to be
cela.
able to
La
solve
disponibilité de matières
this
premières,
problem.
les renforcements de
Availability
capacité
of raw
et
material,
encore une fois la
capacity
formation.
strengthening, and again
Et une
training.
autre contrainte, pas des moindres, ça c'est l'accès au
And
financement.
also
Quand on regarde
challenge
du
is
côté des
the
deux
limited
pays,
access to financing.
l'Algérie c'est un peu mieux organisé avec
In
une
Algeria,
structure
it's a bit
qui
better organized
accompagne
with a
les artisans.
structure
Au
which
Mali, c'est
accompany
pas très évident.
artisans,
Donc, il va
but in Mali, it's
falloir
not so
aussi
easy.
échanger les stratégies pour qu'il y ait un accompagnement financier.
So we will have to
Pourquoi pas mettre en
exchange
place des systèmes
strategies
de
to have a
microcrédit.
financial assistance to implement
Les
microcredit,
opportunités pour ces
for
artisanes
example.
vraiment sont nombreuses.
The
Ils
other
ont
activities
une reconnaissance
for these
internationale,
women
accès au
are
marché.
numerous. They have
On peut
access to
aussi, en
market
construisant des identités
and
fortes à travers les
building
labellisations et
strong
autres, augmenter
identities.
la valeur ajoutée
Also
de ces
through
produits,
digitalization, we can add
adopter des
value
techniques
for
modernes
this
pour
product and
encore mieux
adapt
valoriser
modern
et puis
techniques
améliorer la
also
qualité de ces produits.
and improve the
Et
quality of
surtout,
this product.
utiliser prochainement les
And
résultats des
also we can
recherches scientifiques
use
et techniques issues du projet
the
BECATMA.
results of scientific and technical research from this BECATMA project.
Plusieurs besoins sont quand même à signaler.
However, many
La
needs
formation technique est
remain.
indispensable,
First, the technical
mais
training
aussi
is
les formations sur les compétences générales et
mandatory,
transversales.
but also
L'accès aux ressources,
the coaching on
les chaînes
general and
d'approvisionnement de
transversal
ces matières
skills,
premières n'est pas aussi évidente que
access
ça.
to
Et leur
resources,
stockage pose souvent problème. Donc, il va falloir
the
organiser tout cela.
storage and supply of this
Et
product
aussi
is
le
not so
soutien
easy, so
financier,
we
on
have
l'a dit
to
tantôt.
manage all these
Parce qu'on a
challenges
remarqué
also.
que sur le
And also
terrain,
regarding the support, we have
plusieurs
observed
projets
that
qui peuvent
there are many projects at the same
adresser
time,
différentes
sometimes
parties de ces
on the
problématiques-là,
ground,
mais très rapidement, quand
addressing
ces
these
projets s'arrêtent,
issues, but when these
les
projects
artisanes elles
stop,
sont un peu livrées à
the
elles-mêmes et il n'y a
artisans
pas de
are
continuité. Alors qu'il y a
left to
beaucoup de choses
themselves,
à
there
faire.
is no
Donc, pour vraiment consolider,
continuity.
il
So we
faut
have to
penser
strengthen the whole strategy.
sur une certaine durée à pouvoir les
And
accompagner pour que
we must be
au
able
départ des projets,
to
les
accompany
effets soient
these
là et que ça
women
puisse être durable dans
so
le temps.
that the project is sustainable
Alors, nous avons
and
une équipe dynamique,
has a long-term
genrée,
effect. So
qui
we have a
travaille sur ce
dynamic
projet.
and gender
J'aimerais, à
team
travers cette photo, leur rendre
working on
hommage
this project.
et je vous remercie.
They are all in this photo. And thank you to them. And thank you for hearing me and listening to me, to my presentation.
Disons merci à Madame Doumbia pour sa
Thank
présentation.
you very much
Et nous
to
allons
Miss
rapidement
Doumbia
donner la
for
parole à
her
quelques
presentation.
personnes. Vous
We
comprenez que
will
le temps étant
rapidly give
passé,
the
nous ne
floor
pourrons
to
plus
some
avoir un long
people,
moment de
but
discussion.
time
Mais nous allons
has
quand même
ended,
donner
so
l'opportunité pour
unfortunately
quelques
we won't
questions
have
vraiment
so much
brûlantes.
time to discuss.
Donc, si vous voulez
But
poser des questions, on
if
va vous donner
you
la
have
parole.
very urgent
Je
questions,
sais qu'il y
you
a déjà
will have the opportunity
une
to
question
ask
dans
them.
le
We
chat.
already have one question in the chat.
Oui, je vois que Madame Aurore Bioko a levé la main. Je vais lui laisser la
I
parole.
see Aurore Bioko has her hand raised. You want to speak? You have the floor.
Oui, bonsoir.
Yes, good afternoon.
Bonsoir à tout le monde.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Et j'ai suivi avec attention
I
les
have
trois
listened very
présentations.
carefully to the
Je
three
remercie
presentations.
vraiment les
I really
présentatrices
thank our presenters
pour la qualité de
for
ces
the quality of
présentations.
their presentations.
Bon, quelque part, je suis un peu restée sur ma faim par
I
rapport
would have hoped to get
aux
some
deux
more
dernières
information
présentations.
on the two last
Qui d'abord
presentations.
pour
First,
le genre,
regarding
parce que
gender.
c'est Madame celle qui est passée en deuxième position. Excusez-moi si je n'ai pas gardé le nom.
And the second presenter,
J'ai
sorry,
constaté que sa
I forgot
présentation
her
s'est
name,
appesantie
but her presentation
sur
insisted on
le genre.
gender.
C'est bien parce que bon,
It is good,
il
of
faut dire
course,
que
because
beaucoup de gens ne comprennent pas ce
many
que c'est que
people
le genre. C'était
don't
très bien.
understand
Mais
what
j'aurais
is gender,
aimé
so it
que
was
l'on
really
fasse
interesting, but I would have hoped
une corrélation
to make
entre
the relation
le genre et les changements climatiques.
between
Comme
gender
ce que
and
nous attendons pour vraiment montrer
climate change,
la
to really
vulnérabilité
show the
de
vulnerability
ces femmes par rapport aux
of
effets
these
des changements
women
climatiques.
as far as climate change
Comment
effects
est-ce
are
qu'elles
concerned,
s'adaptent
how they can
à la
adapt,
résilience. C'est pour ça que je disais la
how
première
they can be
présentation
resilient.
nous a quand
So
même
the first
montré un peu
presentation
des
showed
manières
us
d'adaptation des femmes.
the different
Et je
ways
passe en
to
même
adapt
temps
for
pour
these
dire
women,
les sites qui ont été
and actually
aménagés pour ces
the
femmes dans
sites
ce
that have
contexte
been
d'extrême violence. Est-ce que ces femmes,
implemented
là
for these
j'aborde
women
en
facing
mettant la
extreme
première
violence
présentatrice
context,
qui nous a
and
montré
I
l'expérience de
take this opportunity to
Mopti, je
thank
pense.
the first
Si ces
speaker
femmes
who
arrivent
showed
quand
us
même
this experience.
à
I
ne
would like to know
pas
if
subir
these
dans ces zones
women
où on leur a aménagé des sites, si
make it to
elles ne subissent pas
avoid
ces
suffer
actes d'extrémisme
from
violent.
these violent acts.
Ensuite, par rapport à la dernière
And
présentatrice, j'ai constaté aussi que
then,
c'est
regarding the
très
last
bien, ça nous
speaker,
a permis de voir les
it was very
actions du
interesting.
projet
Also, we could
BECATMA.
get to know very concrete action
Mais là
from the
aussi, on
BECATMA
a vu
project, but then
simplement ce
again,
que BECATMA fait,
we
mais
have
j'aurais
only
voulu
seen
quand
what
même que l'on fasse
BECATMA is doing,
une
but I
relation
would have
entre le
hoped
sujet, le
to see a
sujet de ce
relation
webinaire,
between
qui
the
devrait
subject
en
of this
principe nous
webinar,
montrer effectivement comment est-ce que
which
ces
should show
femmes
us how these women
ont été affectées,
have
leur
been
vulnérabilité par rapport aux
affected
effets des changements climatiques
and are more
et comment
vulnerable
est-ce que
regarding
ces
the
projets-là
effects of climate change,
les
and
ont
how this
accompagnés,
project has
pas pour pouvoir
assisted them
s'adapter, parce que la
to help
résilience
them
passe d'abord
adapt,
par
because
l'adaptation.
resilience
Et
is
avant que nous ne puissions
first
dire,
a
bon,
matter
voilà,
of
elles sont sur le chemin
adaptation, so that we can say
d'une
they are
résilience
moving in the
avec
right
la
way,
vulnérabilité du climat.
going
Pas
forward,
si
going
je me suis
until
fait comprendre.
real,
Voilà
really
là où je suis
a real
restée sur ma
resilience.
faim, surtout
So
par rapport aux deux dernières
that's what I wanted
présentations.
to convey. I don't know if I have been clear enough. Thank you very much.
Est-ce que les présentateurs peuvent répondre rapidement? Comme c'est plusieurs questions en
Can
même
you
temps,
answer? Do the presenters can answer? Should we take all the questions first or answer?
C'est d'abord les questions, après on va répondre.
First the question and then we will answer. Okay.
Rapidement, parce que le temps est vraiment passé, s'il vous plaît.
Yes,
So
very
quickly,
briefly, because we
the
don't have
time has
more
ended.
time.
Oui, vous pouvez répondre à la question
Yes,
de Madame.
you can answer the question.
You can answer the question.
Madame, moi
So,
c'est
Madame Halimatou?
Je n'ai pas gardé votre nom malheureusement. Alors, la présentation, malheureusement, on a dû sauter.
So,
et
unfortunately,
pas eu beaucoup de temps sur celui qui a suivi.
I didn't have much time because, and in fact, we skipped one slide on the topic of water. So, but we need to understand what are the most affected sectors in terms of water resources and what land irrigation and agriculture. So these are the sectors that are most impacted. So we need to understand how women are made more vulnerable. Is it because of the access to these resources? Resources that are not available because of climate change? Or is it about understanding access to infrastructure? In fact, the whole context prevents them to develop adaptation methods. When we take into consideration household chores, 80% of these chores are ensured by women. Women are the ones who have to fetch water, for instance, and they have to go for very long distances just to fetch water. And that has an impact on their health, their education. They don't have the time to also devote themselves to income generating activities. So it's important to understand all these factors in order to facilitate things for women by reducing household chores for women so that they can have time to participate in other activities such as market gardening or income generating activities. Floods, for instance, they create cholera and other infectious diseases in the Sahel region. How these diseases have an impact on malnutrition, how they affect women, because women are the ones who are most impacted. They are the ones that are getting ill. They are in charge of family hygiene, and they are, they take care of their family members, their children, and the elderly. And if we talk about agriculture, 40% of women work in agriculture, and 80% work on production. So the question of access to the land is also another important topic that we need to bear in mind when we talk about how women are affected. Women, for instance, who do not have crops, they cannot work in market gardening either. So when we talk about adapting to climate change, someone who doesn't have a plot of land cannot work in this sense. They don't have the necessary means to develop any alternative economic activities. Adaptation in terms of climate change requires good crops or enough natural resources. And not only that, you need also to develop alternative activities. And poverty is very related to women. Women cannot have the necessary guarantees or protection to ask for credits or loans, and this increases their vulnerability. So we need to take into consideration all this. In terms of climate change in the Sahel, we need to know that there is a high climate risk that has an important impact, which increases women's vulnerability in the Sahel. Everything that has to do with adaptation, with climate justice, we need to understand how women are involved in this in projects in order to protect women. If these programs are taken into consideration the gender perspective. So, of course, there are many topics that we could develop. We didn't have much time. My presentation was how to integrate the gender perspective in the resilience that is needed for women. And yes, it is important to integrate gender in everything that has to do with water and resilience in a very practical manner. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Thank you. Well, there is another question for Mrs.
Madame Awa.
Awa. You can both answer.
Très bien. C'était la question de Madame Ouedraogo.
Okay, it was the question of Mrs. Ouedraogo, the link between crisis, economic or environmental crisis, and the BECATMA project. Well, probably I didn't mention this at the beginning, but what we need to know is that we are in a crisis context, which is not the same for the two countries, but we do share common challenges. And of course, when it comes to security, there will be displacements. And we know that young women, also young men, but mainly young women are in a very vulnerable situation. From the economic perspective, we also know that in the region, there are many difficulties related to gender. Now, the question is, how in our respective contexts can we take this into consideration in order to mitigate the effects of this crisis? This is the approach that we should have. When it comes to dyeing, it is a form of art that is practiced by people who didn't have the opportunity to receive education, and it's an activity that also produces an income. And as you know, in the dyeing industry, we use a lot of water, and environment is also an important consideration because we use toxic chemicals, chemical products. And in some countries, you would see that there are QA standards to make sure that products are respected quality assurance norms. And in our industry, we have raw material, we have water, we have dyers, and also those those who work in this industry that we needed to support so this activity can be sustainable, and so that this activity has not an impact neither on their health nor on the environment. I don't know if Madame Diallo is there.
If I understood well the question, she was asking how these beneficiaries make it to be able to work in this insecurity context. Well, this insecurity varies from one area to another. There is some areas that have been very affected by these violent conflicts, ethnic conflicts.
Donc, ça fait la différence. Ça, c'est d'un.
So
Et
it
de deux,
depends on the
c'est des
area.
circonstances qui arrivent. C'est des groupes
So
qui imposent leur
there
veto.
are groups
C'est
who
dommage.
impose their
Ils
veto,
incorporent,
their
ils
law,
imposent leur veto, leur loi
they impose their
sur les
their
chefs
veto
coutumiers, sur
on
les chefs
the
religieux.
customary leaders, on the
À défaut
religious
des
leaders.
enfants, on tête sa grand-mère. C'est dommage. Donc, ces
So
populations sont obligées
it
d'accepter
is a
certaines
pity, but
conditions,
the
au moins pour
people,
leur
the
survie.
population have to
Au moins pour leur
accept
survie, à des
these
conditions qui sont
conditions
acceptées.
just to be able to
Pour pouvoir
survive. They
survivre,
have to
aller devoir
accept
aller au champ.
these
Ça, c'est des
conditions
conventions
to
que je
remain
dirais entre nous ici, c'est
alive.
des conventions entre
So there
certains
are
qui
kind
font
of
la
conventions
et ça
between
marche
some people,
pour qu'au moins on les puisse
and
vivre,
it is working. It
aller
is working
travailler,
this way.
avoir de quoi à
So
manger.
these women
Et surtout, je le
are
souligne dans
able
cette
to
zone
work, to live, and to get
du
some
Delta,
food.
la crise n'est
So
pas
in
aussi
the
accentuée
Delta
que
area, the
dans
crisis
le
is not
Sahel
so
des falaises.
severe
La
that in the
situation est un peu
Falaise
différente.
area. So
Et dans
the
leurs
situation
conditions, dans la
is a bit
Quand il y
different.
a beaucoup de choses, il y a l'accoutrement des femmes. Tu ne peux pas aller sur ta parcelle avec certains accoutrements. Il faut que tu sois vraiment habillé de la tête aux
In
pieds.
some
Donc, il y
areas,
a
you've
beaucoup de
got to
conditions.
comply with
Qui cherche sa survie accepte ça. C'est comme ça que ça se passe. Après la récolte, il y a une certaine quantité pour
special
manger.
rules regarding their
Accepté.
clothes. They are not
Et puis,
able,
les
for
femmes
example,
aussi sont avec les
allowed
hommes. Ça, je vous le dis.
to go and work
Les
with
femmes sont
some
avec
clothes.
leurs
So
garçons ou avec les
they
hommes sur les champs.
accept
On ne laisse pas
this
totalement
rule.
les femmes là-bas, non.
In the
Elles sont
same
aussi avec
way, they
leurs
don't
hommes et
have
leurs
to,
hommes.
they can't be alone
En
by
fait, le respect des
themselves in
accoutrements
the field. They
et le
have to
respect
be
en tout cas des conditions
accompanied
dictées par les
by a
maîtres de
man.
lieu.
Well,
Voilà.
they are the rules that are dictated by the leaders of the place,
Merci
but if
beaucoup. Donc, il y a
they have to
quelques
accept
questions dans le chat.
these rules
Je vais
because,
rapidement
I
la
mean, in order to
poser.
survive. Okay,
C'est la
thank you very much.
question
We
de...
have a question in the chat. It is a question
Je crois
from
que c'est monsieur... Attendez.
Sir. Bear with me.
Au niveau des questions, je crois qu'il y a Antelac, voilà. Antelac, j'espère que je ne prononce pas mal. Donc,
Antelac,
il demande
he
que
is
dans ces
asking,
conditions où
in
il y
these
a beaucoup de
conditions
guerres dans le monde
where there
entier, les
are
problèmes de
many
génocide en Palestine,
wars,
dans beaucoup
genocide
d'endroits dans le
issues,
monde
like in
où il y a des
Palestine,
guerres,
there are
est-ce que,
many places in
comment
the
on peut
world
faire pour
facing wars.
sauvegarder le
So
droit des femmes
how
à
can we do
l'accès
to
à un environnement
safeguard
propre
women's
et à l'eau
right
potable?
to
Voilà, parce que
access
les crises
to
font que les
drinking
droits
water
de la
and
femme
land?
à un environnement propre et à de l'eau potable est vraiment menacé. Comment on peut
And
faire?
safe environments,
Comment on peut faire pour
because
sauvegarder ce droit?
this is
Donc,
crucial
c'est
for
Antelac
women.
de
So how
l'Université
can
du
we
Yémen qui pose la question.
what can we do to
Donc,
safeguard
peut-être une personne parmi
these
le panel
basic
peut
rights
répondre.
for women? Maybe someone from the panel can answer.
Vous pouvez répéter la question, s'il vous plaît?
Oui,
Can
au
you
fait,
repeat the
la
question?
personne demande comment
So
on peut
the person is asking how we can
le droit
safeguard the
de la
right
femme à accéder à un environnement propre et à
of
l'eau potable.
women
C'est-à-dire dans
to
cet
have access
environnement où
to
il y a vraiment
a clean
des crises,
environment
il y a
and
la guerre et tout
to
ça. Comment on peut
drinking water,
sauvegarder ce
especially in
droit? Parce
those
que ce
very
droit est en train d'être perdu à
complicated
cause
environments with
des conditions de guerre.
the war ongoing and severe crisis
Accès à
situations
un environnement propre et
and
à l'eau
settings.
potable. C'est
So
le
how
droit.
can we safeguard their basic right to have access to drinking
C'est une
water
question
and
qui
to
a
a
été posée dans le
clean environment?
C'est
It
une
is a
question
question we
vraiment
got in the chat.
importante et
Yeah, this
complexe
is
vu la
very important
situation
and
où,
complex
dans les zones
when we
en
see some
Palestine avec tout ce qui se passe, les
situations,
zones de
some
guerre,
settings like in Palestine.
c'est difficile de façon globale de
It
maintenir
is very difficult at the global scale
certaines choses,
to
notamment la
maintain
question
certain
de
rights,
l'accès
especially
à certaines ressources
regarding
comme
these
l'eau, comme le
issues
manger,
of
à
the
travers tout
access
ce
of certain
qu'on vient de
resources
voir.
like
Mais ce qui est
food
très
and
important, c'est de
water. But what
conscientiser
is
en fait
important is to
les
be
intervenants qui ont
conscious
accès
of to raise awareness to the people who go to these sites to help, so that they can prioritize with the need, the means they have, so to be able for them to understand that the woman first need water, she first needs to drink, to get water, to drink or to wash herself, because she's bleeding, for example. So these are the most valuable resources for women. So the first rescuers, let's say, when they go to these settings, they have to get this knowledge, so they can give more to these women to allow these women to keep on living with dignity.
Je ne sais pas exactement comment est-ce que les humanitaires arrivent à
I don't really know how humanitarian people
de pouvoir intervenir, d'amener ces
can
ressources là où il
intervene
faut, au moment où il le faut.
as far as these resources are
Donc,
concerned. I don't
ce
really
qui est
know
sûr,
how they are working, but what is sure
le fait de donner,
is that
il faut vraiment tenir
the
compte
fact
de la question
when
de
you
besoins
give
spécifiques
something,
des
you really
femmes
have
et
to
des hommes.
take into
Et c'est
account
comme
the
ça qu'ils peuvent
specific
créer
needs of
le
women
cadre
and
qui
men.
permettra à la femme
That
d'être dans
allows
un
to
environnement
create the framework
propice,
within which women will be in a secure
sécurisé, avec
and
la
a
ressource
favorable
optimale qu'il lui
environment
faut pour
with
s'intégrer.
the most important resource
Le
she needs
contexte
for
de génocide ou
for her
de
basic
guerre
needs.
est vraiment très, très compliqué à
The
travers
war settings are a very complicated issue. Yes, absolutely.
Docteur Doucouré, oui, vous pouvez prendre la parole.
Dr. Doucouré, you can take the floor. Yes, absolutely. Hello, thank you. I just wanted to compliment regarding this question. We can also see two levels of answer. There is an advocacy work to do regarding women protection, regarding access to drinking water, to decent sanitary conditions, and there can be a civil actors grouping to put pressure on governments. And I know that in 2026 there will be a United Nations Youth Water Summit. Some of us will be participating to this summit. So I'm wondering if this kind of forums within the United Nations talking about drinking water activities, when we will be talking about these questions, maybe this issue can be conveyed, and the message can be conveyed within this platform. And then at the political level, the civil societies have to put pressure on the politicians to make a priority of this issue. And I think, I see that the civil society actors are talking about these issues, and this is the best way, I guess, to get a joint answer. So these are the different arenas where the civil society actors can convey this message, that be it in Mali and Palestine and Niger, when you've got these hygiene issues, it is a matter of basic rights we have to respect. So I'm just thinking of this United Nations Summit in March 2026. Maybe we can take this opportunity to put some pressure for this subject to be treated as a priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, unfortunately, we cannot continue. We don't have much. We don't have time. But you can also send us your questions, and Nadine is going to share the link so that you can contact us. So please share your questions with us, and we are going to direct these questions to the various speakers today, because this is a very relevant topic. So I guess that we don't have much time for all the questions that have been posed, and we know that we had some logistics problems at the beginning, but thank you very much for your participation. Please write down your questions and forward them to us. And of course, we will forward these questions to our speakers, but unfortunately, we have to leave. We need to wrap up our meeting today. So in the chat, you have our link, our email address. Do not hesitate to send us your questions, ideas, suggestions, so that we can create a better world, all of us. And I would like also to thank the Water and Development Partnership, who supported us for the organization of this meeting. So thank you very much, and we'll be in touch. Please write to us. Don't hesitate. Share your ideas. They will be most welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Also, thank you very much, Charlene, and all the speakers, and Abdoulaye, who also was helping us, and of course, Claudia and Cécile, who helped with the interpretation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to the presenters and the translators, the interpreters. Thank you so much for the great job.